All right, IM3 classes. Today we are writing sine and cosine functions by looking at the graph. Spent the last couple days graphing sine, cosine, tangent. We're going to look at graphs and write the action function now. Here, oh, is that? Let me move some stuff out of the way. Um, so here we're going to write equations. We are just focusing on the amplitude and the period. We're going to be doing sine and cosine. So remember the amplitude, A, goes out in front of goes out in front of the sine or cosine, right? And then the period, all right? Remember, a period is how long it takes the graph, the wave, to make one complete cycle. When we were graphing, we would look at the equation, find the b value. We'd see the period is 2 pi divided by b. We'd find the period here. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at the graph and find the period, and then we need to solve for b. So if we do some, just some simple algebra, multiply both sides by b and then divide by the period, we can see that b is equal to 2 pi divided by the period. The b and the period just switch spots in that equation. So let's look at an example. So first thing you want to do when looking at a curve is identify if it's a sine or cosine curve. What you want to remember for that is look at where it starts. Here, this graph is starting at 0, 0, right? When it starts at 0, 0, that means it is a sine function, right? If it starts at the top or the bottom of the period or the amplitude, the top or the bottom of the amplitude, that means it is a cosine curve. Why does this every time? Yeah, so if it starts on the y-axis at the top or bottom of the amplitude, it is cosine. But it's starting at 0, 0, so it's sine. Amplitude then, we want to look at how far it goes up. So at the top of the graph, top of the wave, it is at 2. This is making it very difficult for me. Okay, it goes all the way up to 2, so the amplitude is 2. The period, this is where you need to look at the graph. When we were graphing, we were only doing 2 full periods, so we just went, our graph ended at the end of the period, at a positive period. You don't want to look all the way at the end and see that the graph it goes to 5. That's not the period. So the period is how long it takes the wave to make one complete cycle. So you go to its starting point on the y-axis, right? And you need to see how long it goes. It needs to go to the top of the amplitude, all the way down to the bottom of the amplitude, and then return to its starting point. All right. So this does one complete period in 2. So the period here is 2. So we need to use that to find the b value. So b, again, is going to be 2 pi divided by the period. So you do 2 pi divided by the 2 we just found. The 2's cancel out, right? And so we're left with the period of just pi. And then we put this information into our equation. So the amplitude goes out front, so it's 2. It is a sine wave, so sine, and then the period, the b value is pi times x. So y is equal to 2 sine pi of x. Again, the tricky thing that we practice identifying is the period. It goes just the graph, use how long does it take for the graph to, from the starting point, go to the top of the amplitude, to the bottom of the amplitude, and then back to the starting point. Right? Let's look at another example. So here, first, again, we want to look at where it starts to determine if it is sine or cosine. Here it is starting at the bottom of the amplitude. Since it's not 0, 0, this means it's cosine. Also, we should note, since it is starting at the bottom, normally cosine starts at the top. This is going to be a negative cosine We're gonna have a negative at the end of our equation. The amplitude. So if we're looking at where it goes down to, I already have it. It starts at the bottom. That is 1/4. So it oscillates between positive 1/4 and negative 1/4. So the amplitude, and some color for you. The amplitude is 1/4, 4.25, whatever you prefer. The period, again, you don't just go to the end of the graph. You don't go to the end of the x-axis. We need to start on the y-axis. And we see how long it takes for the graph to go from the top, or I guess in this case, the bottom of the amplitude, reach the top of the amplitude, and then return back to its starting, be at the bottom. So bottom to the top, then return. So that is one complete cycle, and that has an amplitude here of 10. So the amplitude there, or not the amplitude, period is 10. So we need to use that to find the b value. The b value is 2 pi divided by the period. Reduce that fraction. 2 divided by 10 is 1/5. So this is just pi over 5 is going to be the b value. So here we're going to include, we're going to write our equation. Don't forget, since it is flipped, it starts to negative, it's going to be a negative cosine. The amplitude goes out front. And like I said, we did determine it was a cosine curve. And then the b value inside there is going to be pi over 5. One more example. All right. So again, take a look. Where does it start? It does not start at 0, 0. It's starting at the top of the amplitude up here on the y-axis. So this is a cosine curve, right? The amplitude. See, again, it's at the top. So the amplitude right here is 2. The period. So we just need to know how long does it take it to go from a starting point. In this case, it's at the top of the amplitude, get to the bottom, then return back to the top where it started. And that is 4. So this has a period of 4. Well, that in blue. So period is 4. We need to use that to find the b value. B is 2 pi divided by the period. So 2 pi divided by 4. 2 over 4, that reduces to pi over 2. So now we are just going to write our equation. So this is y is equal to, it is a cosine curve. I just need to fill in the blanks. First, the amplitude is 2. And then the b value is pi over 2. And that will do it. Circles next time. Great.